after we created this Human Heroes, which became Humans Are Heroes creation, I was like, okay, well, I think we want to create this TV show in New York City that tells the story of these heroes who are changing the world in 5 different areas that were exciting to me. Wealth redistribution, spirituality, aging and living forever, so the science of extending lifespan, artificial intelligence, and sexual freedom.
What is up, Impact Heroes? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Ornelas. Thank you for spending some time with us today because we know time's a valuable resource and we're going to make it worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you, not just for listening, but for who you are. I know you're sparking change to make the world a better place every day, and I am humbled and grateful for your efforts. It takes all of us doing our part to spread positive change, and that's what this show is all about. Motivating you with stories of struggle, courage, and hope to empower you to make a difference in your life and the lives of others.
Are you interested in having Rick speak at your event or business? Here is what others have to say.
Did not know his story, and it was so inspirational, and his presence on stage, his authenticity was just incredible.
Absolutely loved his performance. It made me feel some type of way.
If you're looking for a speaker for your next event, hire Rick. I promise you this, you will not be disappointed.
Visit rickornelas.com to book him today.
Welcome back, Impact Heroes. Today we have the pleasure of speaking to our latest iSpark Change social impact hero, and he is a good one. Our guest is on a mission to inspire humanity to create a culture of togetherness, connection, and coordination. Right up my alley, folks. He's someone who knows how to channel your hero's journey to connect your story of suffering and adventure with those of others. He believes we can motivate humans to do the hard work of inner healing, restorative justice, and conflict resolution, things we all need more of in this world, for sure. His movement aims to inspire a culture of coordination between all humans to help us create new systems for managing our civilization. Wouldn't that be great? He's attended Burning Man an amazing 6 times and has sat with an incredible, with ayahuasca, an incredible 42 times. So please welcome the authentic, spiritual, and passionate founder of World Peace Ceremony, Arcturus Eden.
Hi, Rick. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, Arcturus?
Amazing. Yeah, I'm doing good. Feeling happy. Got a phone call coming. The phone call finished. So I'm here with you. Yes, present.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I'm glad we were able to connect through your team. Here on the podcast, we're all about social impact heroes, those that we feel are making a difference in the world. So as soon as she reached out, a member of your team reached out to me and sent me, your background and your bio, I was like, ooh, this is pretty intriguing. This is someone that I would want to, learn more about and learn more about your work and how you're making a difference. So I start out with one question that I always start out with on the show, and the theme of our show is social impact heroes, and we have an acronym to define a hero as we see it. But the question I have for you is, do you see yourself as a hero?
That's a great question. So actually, in 2018, I went to Peru to do ayahuasca. It was my second retreat to go do ayahuasca. And for whoever doesn't know what ayahuasca is, it's a tea that is considered to be a plant medicine that for thousands of years, Native American tribes have been drinking this tea and having profound spiritual insights and healing. People who consider themselves shamanic or people who practice shamanism, do ayahuasca. And it's been pretty well discussed in a lot of media. But I was on my second ayahuasca journey, and it was a 10-day journey. I did ayahuasca 5 times, with my girlfriend at the time, Cheyenne, and we come out of the journey. Now we're in Miami in an Uber, and I was super clear. The ayahuasca had cleared up my system. I felt super open to receive insight from the universe, and I remember in our journey, the guide was like encouraging us to create something in this open state, to create what's in our heart's calling. I remember telling Cheyenne in the back of the Uber, I want to create maybe a TV show or a movement to follow people who are changing the world, to follow people who are creating change and dramatically altering what reality is all about. And then the Uber driver turns around and he's like, you should call this? You should call this Human Heroes. And I was like, okay. And I was in a super open state. And that's what I did. I actually ended up creating a TV show concept called Human Heroes. And my friend Brian was like, yeah, it shouldn't be called Human Heroes. We should call it Humans Are Heroes. So anyhow, there's a website, humansareheroes.tv, humansareheroes.tv, where this whole concept was, I created it, and we were looking to create a TV show. One thing led to another, and that led me into politics somehow. That's another story. But I feel like, I think I've had this yearning to like do something big, or to like connect with my courage. And I've definitely had a lot of my life where I was living the normal life, right? We go to school and got to get good grades and live the normal, what society expects us to do. But the most exciting moments for me were when I sort of woke up to like my life's purpose. And I think in those moments, I saw myself as a hero, even though I may not have said, oh, you're a hero. Like it felt maybe cheesy or something. Although, it's Campbell. His first name is escaping right now. What's Campbell's first name?
Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell wrote about the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. And so I think the one way of looking at life is like we are each a movie character in our own movie, and there's a collective movie of all of humanity, and we each have our individual story connected to everybody else's stories, and the arc of each of our story is like a hero's journey. And I think each of us really is on a hero's journey. I love that way of perceiving life and what we're doing here.
Yeah, that resonates with me, Arcturus. Thank you for your answer, because I always thought kind of how you started out with your explanation of that, a hero is kind of this grand thing, this comic book definition, you have to do these grand world changing things. And what I've come to realize in my purpose as well is that we're all on that hero's journey. We all can do heroic things every day just by the impact that we have on a daily basis on, anyone that we interact with in life, and that in creating that impact, we create heroic acts that can go far and wide, that we may never see the effects of those actions. We call those spark moments, and we'll get to that later in the show, but that we all have the ability, the capability, the propensity to have these spark moments, to have these heroic actions every single day. And it seems that you've come to that realization as well. And so tell me, where you shared that, you went to school and, you're kind of going through life. When did, obviously it was 2018 where you kind of had this realization, but, go back a little farther and talk about, where maybe those seeds were planted, or, things happened earlier on in life where you thought, because you said it was always kind of there. So where you thought that, oh, maybe I am destined to do something big, or maybe I have a greater purpose than where I'm living in the moment.
Yeah. So, this is the house I grew up in from 7th grade until high school. And then I used to come here in college breaks. Went to school in Connecticut. This is in Dix Hills, Long Island, right? Long Island, New York. And, I went to middle school and high school here. I think what was expected of me was to go to school, get good grades. I played sports. I played soccer. I did wrestling and lacrosse, and wrestling kind of took over. And I was pretty studious. I was into getting good grades. And I think one time we went to the orthodontist and the dentist, probably both in different times. And my mom kind of looked at the wall and she was like, look how many, plaster teeth are on the wall. Like, wow, this dentist must be doing really, really well. Maybe you want to be a dentist, right? So it's kind of like, growing up, I guess, Jewish parents, they want their son to be a doctor, lawyer, kind of successful. That's how I grew up, right? I wasn't raised to like change the world or do something amazing. That's not my upbringing. But yeah, I think now, I'm 43 now. So it's been a journey, right? Since I started like college, it's been, many years. And I think my first job out of college was at an investment firm. So I was still like following my path. I actually was pre-med and I studied biology. So I wanted to become a doctor or a dentist. And 3 years into it, I started, after my junior year, I started asking myself questions like, is this really what I want to do? And I ended up, getting an internship in finance. My brother was in finance and I was like following his footsteps in a way. And it turned out not to be my path. What was in my mid 20s when I was like soul searching, looking for exciting things I'd met, through my parents, I met sort of a family friend, was working on created a security and defense company after 9/11, and an organization called Bridging the Rift that was all about creating peace in the Middle East. He actually held a ceremony with former Prime Minister of Israel, Ariel Sharon, and the King of Jordan, and they had a plan to have two countries donate land to create a free zone. And like I think that was the first thing that kind of took me out of my the normal path. My normal path was getting good grades, getting a good job. I thought a good job was being a doctor. I just want to be like successful, and then I thought, what was better than that for me was, finance and asset management and Wall Street and private equity and venture capital. And I was fascinated with venture capital because I was like, wow, these people were funding new technologies that are changing the world. But I still like 3 steps removed from the action. But I think when I worked with this entrepreneur who in my mid 20s, all of a sudden, who wanted to create this organization called Bridging the Rift that was bringing Arabs and Israelis together in the Middle East at the same, after 9/11, and also working on a government intelligence, security and defense project. I was like, whoa, this is pretty amazing. Like this is bigger than life. This is something that kind of jolted me out of the normal path. But I can tell you, even after that, this is still like more than 20 years ago. I think that I've had so many additional moments after that were like felt bigger, even let's say even doing psychedelics, like many, many years later, that's like, whoa, but this is actually what's really going on here. When you have a psychedelic state and you can see reality in a new way, that seems to be, at the time, that seemed to be even more profound. Or like going to Burning Man all of a sudden when I was when I was 32, that seemed to be the biggest thing. So I think, if I go back and try to kind of put them in order, like what are the biggest events that got me to like wake up to there's something bigger going on here. There's probably like 7 of these moments. Yeah. And even recently I've had additional ones like that. So it's I think, I used to have this feeling maybe 20 years ago of like this thought, like, oh yeah, I kind of get what's going on here on Earth. I get what life is all about. You have this feeling like that. And then let's say 3 years go by, you're like, whoa, I thought I like, now I really know what's going on.
Yeah.
3 years ago, like I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
But then that continues. It probably happened like 4 times.
Yeah.
By the time I was like in my early to mid 30s, I was like, actually, I think I'm starting to realize that this is going to continue happening in life.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening. I don't think we ever really have life, figured out. We just keep on that journey and keep going along on the hero's journey. I'd like you to, Chef, I want you to touch on the purpose, because you mentioned that a bit. And I think, kind of similar to I have, you're one of those people that has had many life experiences that have created that purpose in your life. What's your purpose today? Like at this moment, what do you feel is your purpose now at this moment?
Yeah. I really feel like the simplest way to describe that is I'm a conduit for moving energy. I am here, this human body and my consciousness, and energy is flowing through me. Right? And it's as simple as that. And each of us is also doing that. Right? So I think that usually we're used to saying my purpose is to create joy in the world. My purpose is to build a company that will revolutionize healthcare in America and for the world, right? All these purpose statements. But each of us is doing really is we're just being and kind of playing the cards that we've been dealt, and we're moving energy. We're receiving energy from the universe, and then we're like being and taking actions. So I really feel like I'm just moving energy. And another way to say what my purpose is, I feel like my purpose is to create harmony on Earth. Yeah, I like that. I like the moving energy, because as we said, we're all on that journey. And so the more energy we can move, the more we can interact with others. I mean, the more we can create that world, impact the world and make the world a better place. So part of our acronym of HERO is H is honors your purpose. E would be engages, their audience and their mission. So how have you shared that energy with others? How do you share? How are you doing that now, or how do you seek to do that in the future to share that energy that you talk about with others? Yeah. So there's a creation called World Peace Ceremony. That again, I when I was at Burning Man, maybe my 4th time, we were at the Man Burn, which is on Saturday usually, right? 70,000 people gathered around burning an effigy which is a miraculous, I feel like it's a cosmic experience to have even 70,000 humans together in the same place. And there's more than 7 billion humans. So it can get even more exciting, and it's going to become more exciting. But I feel like I'm part of a movement of, the Burning Man movement, this movement of uniting humanity, right? So I feel like I am one of those humans who's part of this movement, uniting humanity. And while we were at Burning Man, I forget what year, maybe it was 2016 or something, I heard somebody say, "Oh, world peace ceremony." And that, I was like, wow. And I was so excited, not only because this person said, I was already excited. I was like, just couldn't contain my excitement. And I knew at that point, like, this is, I think my whole life of like what I've been working on, all the different paths and, all the different things I worked on, it's all kind of leading to this. This is now the biggest thing for me, is uniting humanity in a world peace ceremony. But it took me like, I don't know, like 5-6 years to like create a website and like, okay, now there's a website, worldpeaceceremony.com. And, physically, like in the last few days, I'm working on a video of putting together lots of different performance dance elements from different cultures. Mm-hmm. Sort of showcase, like, this is what a world peace ceremony can look like. We're on a path to creating a world peace ceremony prototype. So very much in line with like when you want to, create a company that will do something big in the world. Well, let's start with a prototype. So that's kind of what we're just working on, a small world peace ceremony prototype, which to me, a world peace ceremony prototype is like 1,000 performers. Mm-hmm. It might take us 3 years to create this. But yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, and that is a good goal. Even 1,000, I mean, that would create impact for sure, and would be a huge ceremony. So yeah, I mean, that's great in what you're creating. I look forward to, seeing the genesis of everything and how that evolves over time. So as we progress through our HERO acronym, and R is ripples a message to spread positive change. And that's where, I feel that our mess is our message, and it's our life stories that connect us to one another. Kind of like you shared, Arcturus, about the sharing energy and everything. So what would be a lesson that you've learned in your journey to this point that you think would benefit someone else, that maybe they're still trying to create that purpose in their life or figure out where they are? What would be a lesson that you've learned or some advice that you would give to someone like that?
Yeah. The first thing that comes up for me as soon as you say that is knowing like all the fears I used to have to doing what I really want to do. I feel like I've had my experience in the last, let's say, 20 years is receiving ideas that I find to be exciting or profound or super interesting, exciting, and then I just like don't do it. I just didn't follow through. And then they would keep coming up for many years, and like the more that I like didn't do the thing that I wanted to do, it resulted in like even physical pain, like emotional pain, physical pain. It's sort of, you can become sick or like just not show up in life, not have healthy relationships, basically nothing in my life worked out when I ignored my heart's calling. And, and even I'm 43 now, and even like, let's say when I was 37 or whatever, and age doesn't matter. I'm kind of like making fun of myself in a way, but like, I can't believe when I was 37 like it's an older age to be manifesting stuff. You know, it's not really. We can manifest at any age. Age doesn't really matter when it comes to manifestation and living your dream. But it's like, it just occurs to me in some part of me that's like, I can't believe I was 37, like having an idea of something I want to do and like not even like getting out of bed and like not doing it and like being afraid to like speak my truth. And you just gotta do it. Like for me, it was like, okay, I'm gonna even like sharing what I want to share on Facebook. Cause I lived in, you know, I guess I grew up in my era where the coolest people were like authentically sharing themselves with like passion and excitement and vulnerability on Facebook. Of course, it became Instagram and now TikTok, and I love all the platforms. But it was like tough for me to like share myself. But when I started doing that, it's like, okay, I'm like that. And I knew it. I knew it was just, I manufactured this fear. And we can talk about, you know, why these fears exist and where they come from. And there's a whole, you know, story behind that. But I think just taking baby steps, like, you know, I'm gonna make a Facebook post and just say, this is what I want to do, or just call a friend and just even tell a friend and even a stranger at an event, I want to work on world peace ceremony. Like, do you think that makes sense? Little things like that are like baby steps to really doing it, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's great advice, because I too have been, you know, frozen in that fear and, you know, kept from taking action. I mean, in 2020, I wrote a book that had been in my head for 20 years because I always felt I didn't have the time, didn't think I could do it, all of that. And then finally, when we're in quarantine, I have the time. I wrote that book, and you know, it's impacted many lives and became very successful, and led to me creating iSpark Change and this podcast that we're on and all of that. So I think that's sage advice for anyone, is to just move past those fears, to just take that small step, whatever it is, whether it's a Facebook post, whether it's building a website, whether it's just sharing, opening, being authentic and vulnerable, like you said, with someone else. I mean, I think that's what it takes. And, you know, it's funny, you didn't even realize probably, Arcturus, but you were touching on the O of hero, which is opens your heart to the world. It's being authentic and vulnerable, letting us connect with others by sharing, you know, our heart and soul. So you mentioned, you know, that fear, and I think that's a big one. And I know a lot of our guests have talked about, you know, having things that they've not done in their lives or have held back from doing certain things, and kind of that itch, if you will, was always there, was always pushing. You said, you know, it led to physical pain or, you know, emotional pain, things like that, because you weren't quite doing what you were supposed to do, right? Or living in that purpose, living in that truth. So where do you think that fear came from that held you back? Was it trying to live up to some ideal that you felt you had to because of your parents, or was it because, you know, of something, you know, internal? Or where do you think that fear came from that would held you back for different times?
Yeah, you know, there's a typical answer that, like, the first thing that came up for me, I'm noticing, you know, it's just conditioning from family and society. But I think now, when I think through why even that's the case, I think it might go back to thousands of years of living in tribes where even the story of the tribe of like, oh, this is what we're doing, this is our tribe. Imagine thousands of years ago, each of us is in a tribe of 100 people. And we have like a language, and we have customs, and we have, if somebody in the tribe a kid in the tribe decided to create a new story or something that felt like it was threatening, like it was different, and not even threatening, it was just a different story, than the main one of the tribe. I think we've been conditioned for thousands of years to like become afraid of that, even. And so I think it goes back, right? Because I think the normal answer is, like when I was a kid, I was singing, and my brother didn't like that, or my parents like thought you should focus on making money or whatever. It wasn't exactly like that. I'm really just giving a shortcut to what my experience was, because I'm realizing that the answer to your question is not only personal to me. I think it's for thousands of years, all of us were like part of these tribes. And so like the modern way of explaining this is that we've had religion, and religion has united us, but it also has caused us to see us as if we're in different groups. And if somebody has a truth to share, it's their own personal truth. But if it's not the same as the whole religion, it's seen as threatening, and then you're going to receive you're going to get hit over the head, so to speak, by your tribe members. So I think we live in a world where people are afraid to speak their truth. We also now, maybe in this point in history, this is the most outspoken people can be. We're also now living in a time where people are the most free to express themselves. But we're not even close yet to where we can be. And we're in the United States, the country that is based on, values of, well, anybody can come here. Freedom of speech, you can say whatever you want. But still, look, the culture here is extreme individualism, where people can speak their voice freely, but people are arguing, even, whether it's Democrats, Republicans, different ideas, there's different memes. So how come we live in this country that's supposed to be about, and it is about, maybe still the most in the world, free, you can say whatever you want, and we celebrate freedom of speech, we celebrate your own individual voice, yet we're afraid to, I guess maybe it's that we are still developing our ability to listen to somebody else's voice, listen to somebody else's opinion, and be okay that they have a story, and that's amazing. You have your individual view of what's important, what's going on, and we don't have to have the same story. Of course we don't have the same story. Of course each story is unique. And of course, especially in this country where we all come from different cultures, everybody here came from different tribes. Yeah. Whether it's in the last, you're a new immigrant, or your great grandparents came here in the 1600s, or you're Native American, whatever. All of us have different unique stories, and our stories are not only based on our ethnicity, obviously, but it's I still think we can create a culture and what's missing, and it's going to happen is that we can each listen to every person's unique story, and then create what is the collective story that's uniting us? That simplicity of what is each person's unique story and truth, and then what is the story that's uniting us is where I'd like to see the world going. Yeah.
It's so interesting to me, Arcturus, that you started out by talking about how what's kind of limited you or others is that ingrained kind of tribalism of that that programming being afraid to share, being afraid to be open, being part of that group, and maybe that judgment that others would give if you are sharing. And then it's interesting that you brought it back to the each of our individual stories and the collective story, because in essence, if you go back to like you said, hundreds of years ago, a small tribe, let's say, that had 100 people, it was made up of those individual stories, right? You might have the tribal leaders, and you might have the warriors, and you might have or the hunters, and you might have the farmers, and the different people that are in each tribe. It was all made of those individual stories. But they put them all together to make the story of the tribe. And now I think we've gotten to, I've never heard it really vocalized that way. Now I think we've gotten just so many people, so big that, there's that tribalism of, no, we're over here, like you said, Democrats here, Republicans here, and it's like opposing sides, as opposed to what you were talking about. No, that's your story. That's my story. They're both beautiful and individual and fascinating, in their own right. And those make up the collective human story. And so hopefully, and I've seen at least the, like the people I've had on the show and the people that I've connected with over the past 3 years being on this segment of my journey, it seems like there are a lot of people like us that are moving towards that direction, that want to see, the world united, want to see the world become a better place, are pushing for that unification, that common story, if you will, of the human race, and us all contributing our individual components to that story. So, thank you for your answer. It's an interesting way to look at it, and it's so true how it's kind of come full circle. But we still have a long way to go. Like you said, I think we have a long way to go, and I hope that we will get there. So it's great advice also for people that are earlier on in that journey, to kind of recognize that, so they can be more open, I guess, more open for sure.
Yeah. I feel like we're in the same tribe of like, heroes unite. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I referenced a spark moment a little bit earlier in the show, and that's where, I believe there are these spark moments in life where our actions have an impact on another, or someone else's actions have an impact on us, that action or that impact goes far beyond that initial act. So maybe it was you hearing World Peace Ceremony from someone at Burning Man that had an impact on you, and that spark to send you down, the road of creating World Peace Ceremony and working on that and building that. So share a story of a spark moment where, someone impacted you, or you impacted someone that maybe you haven't realized how far that's going to go, but where you think it had a big impact, from that moment on.
Yeah. Wow. It's a spark moment where someone impacted. There's so many, because we're each impacting each other every moment. Mm-hmm. Even when we're alone, let's say, we can think a thought and it's like impacting someone, right? In the moment. And so I'm searching now. I'm searching for the one that was like, the biggest one. Okay, here's one. So after we created this Human Heroes, which became Humans Are Heroes creation, it's like, okay, well, I think we want to create this TV show in New York City that tells the story of these heroes who are changing the world in 5 different areas that were exciting to me. It was wealth redistribution, spirituality, aging and living forever, so the science of extending lifespan, artificial intelligence, and sexual freedom. But somehow those 5 topics came to me and from the different experiences I had, and that this is what this show, Humans Are Heroes, is going to be about. And then we were like, okay, let's build community so that we can invite guests, figure out the show format, have an audience. There's lots of things to do to create a real kind of a TV show like American Idol. It's like a reality show, but like people come on stage and show how they've changed the world. Mm-hmm. There's like an audience. It's like super excited about, yeah. So let's build community. So we're building community. Practically what this meant was like we had a meeting of like 8 of us in New York, and we were talking about, okay, how, who do we want to have as a guest or to come on the show? And we're like, oh, let's, one thing led to another. We said, oh, maybe Marianne Williamson. She's, maybe in spirituality, she's a spiritual teacher, and it looks like she's running for president. She's running for the Democratic nomination for president. This is in 2018. So I sent Marianne an email thinking, we probably need to contact thousands of these like celebrities and people who are changing the world to even talk to a few. But she emailed me right back. And like a day later or something, and her assistant, and then I'm sitting at a restaurant, like coffee shop, like working on my laptop, and then she's like, oh, do you want to have a phone call? I'm like, okay. So we hop on the phone. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm here talking to Marianne Williamson. I had done some research on her. I didn't know her too well, but I saw that she went on Oprah. And when she went on Oprah was like crying, like, oh my God, Marianne, you changed my life. And so when this woman, Marianne, goes on Oprah, and Oprah's the one who's like crying, you changed my life. So like, I can't believe I'm getting a chance to speak to Marianne Williamson on the phone. And then she's like, why? And we hop on the phone. She's like, what had you reach out to me? And I was like, I'd like to see you win. That's the first thing that came as to become president. And what I was supposed to say was, was we're creating a TV show and you're gonna, but that's what we talked about was her campaign for running for president. And then we invited her to New York, and we had, an audience, and we filmed it, and a community called The Assemblage. It was a great community. But that experience of introducing Marianne on stage, and she was running for president, I now found myself in 2 worlds. On the one hand, I was like, oh, let's create this Humans Are Heroes community, a TV show. And here's our first, guest. It wasn't really the format that we were going for, but it was like, look, I kind of felt like we did it. But then this woman is running for president, and she wants to create a United States Department of Peace. That was like part of her platform for running for president. And so just even interacting with her and being associated with Marianne was like already life-changing. And what had happened, what transpired a few months later was I was finding myself literally having to make a decision between, do I want to join her campaign for president? This woman was a spiritual teacher for 35 years, talking about love and spreading messages of hope and joy and love. And, I'm getting goosebumps even, talking about it and doing this show. And I was like, I can probably do the show later. I think my excitement is to join her, and I think I want to help her create a United States Department of Peace. And then one time we were on the campaign trail in Iowa. It was like the Democratic, what was it? It's a democratic event. I like to keep things simple. It's a big democratic event in Iowa, and it was a Democratic National Convention, the DNC. But all the presidential candidates spoke, except for Biden. Biden was the only one of the major candidates who wasn't there. And then we had like a lunch after her speech, and she looks at me. She said, "Did you read my book?" She asked me, and I said, "Which one? You have 14." I had like 5 of them. I was, and she's like, "Do you know the quote?" And like I knew exactly what she was going to say. She was asking me. She wanted to see if I knew one of her famous lines about how fear is our biggest fear is our power, right? Our biggest fear is not our inadequacy. Our biggest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. And even though this quote, which people have thought, like, did Nelson Mandela say this, or Marianne Williamson? It was already a big kind of quote in my life that I was like, wow, this woman, just being associated with her and being on this campaign trail with her and wanting her to become president of the United States, and having a title in the campaign. I was senior, and I asked for, I want to be senior advisor and director of peace building. And they said, okay. Our campaign manager said, okay. So that was my title in the campaign. And in this lunch in Iowa, she looks me, straight in the face and wants to see if I know about this quote that she said. And of course I knew this quote, right? Our biggest fear is not that we are inadequate. It's that we're powerful beyond measure. But even when we had that conversation, I was like, wow, like right now I have goosebumps, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, and then, that was it for me. In the last 5 years, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great spark moment, because there's so much in there. There's so much that of impact for yourself, and I'm sure for her and her campaign and others and everything. So thank you for sharing that. So as we come to the end here, Arcturus, share where can our audience learn more about you? Where can they connect? I know you mentioned worldpeaceceremony.com, but any other place that would be good for them to connect with you?
Yeah, all of my social links, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, are all on the bottom of worldpeaceceremony.com. And you can send me an email, arcturuseden@gmail.com. Join the movement, worldpeaceceremony.com. And we're really building a movement. It's also a for-profit company right now. And the reason that's the case is that this is how big missions are achieved. And I'm saying this because we would like to have a CEO. But if one of your listeners is potentially, maybe they will be CEO of World Peace Ceremony, or a software developer, or many other roles that over time we're looking to fill. But I'm happy to connect on a personal level too with anyone. So worldpeaceceremony.com. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put that in the show notes, make sure everyone has those links. So thank you for sharing that. And one final question, just briefly, that we ask all our guests. And, our goal at iSpark Change is to positively impact 1 billion people in the next 5 years through our community, our upcoming social impact, social media community, and our work. So we can't do this alone. We need the help of social impact leaders like yourself that help guide others along the way. So I'm going to ask you to peer into the future, peer into our iSpark Change crystal ball, and, answer in one sentence, what can the world become if everyone believes that they can have an impact on their future and gets past that fear?
We can become an amazing human superorganism and have ecstasy and freedom and expression and joy. So we can create global community and freedom of individuality together.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you for taking your time to share your heart and wisdom with our audience. Arcturus, you came in, you over-delivered as I knew you would. As I told you at the beginning, your desire to be impactful is evident. You're filled with passion, humility, and you lead with a heart of service to humanity, which tells me you're going to continue to have success with not only a world peace ceremony, but in all facets of life. So this is only the beginning of your social impact.
Thank you so much, Rick. I loved your energies and our connection. And I saw your story of how you wrote your book. And I wanted to mention it before. Your card doing, that's an amazing story of how change was sparked in your life. So, look forward to connecting with you in the future. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you. Thanks, Arcturus.
Yeah.
All right, Impact Heroes, it's our stories that connect us all, and we loved hearing Arcturus Eden's story today. Arcturus Eden, you're not only an inspiring and amazing human being, but you truly are an iSpark Change social impact hero. We'll see you all next time.
Remember, Impact Heroes, every positive action can be a spark moment that has a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. So go out there and spark change. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, then please smash that 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. We value your comments and we want to hear from you in the community. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the iSpark Change podcast.